Okay, everyone, we are going to be diving into a sector of the trends that we're starting to really see. We've already talked about some of the expansions and some of the pivots, but one thing that I'm starting to notice quite a bit more is that of businesses, many times it's restaurants, but it is in other industries, making the decision to go into hibernation for the winter, much like a bear, and they plan on hopefully coming out of it come March, come April maybe, just to weather the storm of all things lockdown, COVID, economy, everything else. So we're very fortunate to have one of our favorite people to have on the show, Larry Hebert. I refer to him as the cash flow king, but he really is the expert when it comes to operations, cash flow, logistics, sales, and everything that you need to run a business efficiently and successfully. So with that, Larry, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Bryce. I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So there may be some viewers out there that are maybe considering going into this hibernation mode for their business here in the Q4 of 2020 and headed into 2021. What would you say are maybe 3 tips you would have for them before they go and do that?
Well, this is very appropriate for this time. I've been working over the past 7 or 8 months with about 200 businesses, both through SBDC and my private clients, and this has come up a number of times. And so I'm going to give you 3 things that you may want to consider if you're doing this. So the first one is you want to make an analysis of, if I close for this period of time, what expenses will not go away? And many times that's rent. It could be, I'm sure you could be in some insurance. You've got some insurance you need to pay to protect your premises or what you have inside of it. And there may be some other little expenses. And what is that number on a monthly basis? And then you look at, if you were going to forecast your sales and your ongoing operating expenses, what would the net income be? Because that generally would be the cash that you would have to put in order to make things even, right? Mm-hmm. So we compare those 2 numbers. So as an example, if you were paying $10,000 a month in rent, and say your insurance was $1,000 a month, that's $11,000. Even if we weren't open, you'd have to pay in order to keep your landlord happy and to keep the insurance in force. If you operated your business and you generated some revenue and you had some operating expenses of employees and utilities and that sort of thing, and your loss was $7,000, would it make sense to close or make sense to stay open? One, you're losing $11,000. One, you're only losing $7,000. Now, I'm not saying $7,000 loss is good, but it's less than losing $11,000. Now, there's some emotional things that come into this as well. I totally understand this. I'm speaking strictly from the numbers perspective. So I would say that's an analysis you need to do. And along with that, we've seen over the past several months, many landlords have been able to help businesses. So this could factor into what you're doing as well. So I would encourage you to do an analysis from both sides and really look and see which one would be the least amount that you'd have to pay out.
Exactly. That's a fantastic tip for people to. You're going to have to do some homework, but it's going to be worth it to figure that out.
Yeah, and when I talk to people about business, I look at it and I say, to me, business is numbers, right? When you have on your side, it's customers and communication, and that. To me, it all turns into a number. You sell something, you pay something, you have a number left over when you look at the financial management of a business. And so I'm looking strictly from that perspective of looking at the numbers and which is less. If you do decide to close or hibernate for a period of time, then you want to make sure that you're going to have the available funds if there are ongoing expenses for that period of time that you're closed, and you have personal expenses as well if this is your livelihood. If you have other sources of income coming in, you may not need it, but you need to look at what personal funds do I have? Have I applied for the SBA loans? Did you apply for the EIDL loan? The PPP is closed, but EIDL is still open. Did I apply for the EIDL loan? Can I get that? Are there grants available? There's a new one that could be coming out from California for up to $25,000 per business, so we'll get more information on later. And you can look at your own bank. You have a line of credit you can use. So typically you like not to have to get loans to do this, but this is why they're there. If you're looking and getting on the other side when we get past the pandemic and you can get back into quote unquote normal business and start generating revenue and generating profits, and you start paying these things off. So if you're looking at on the other side of this, staying in business, you besides doing analysis of which might be the most prudent way to go, you also need to look at where do I have cash available, or what access do I have to cash in order to make sure I make it through this time and also pay my personal expenses as well.
Yeah, very true.
And then the third tip I would say, whether it's going good or not going good, or we're at the high point of our business, the pandemic didn't happen, I'm a true believer in forecasting / budgeting. And that is to look in the future from day one through 12 months or even beyond, and really look at what am I forecasting to come in, what are my costs going to be to generate that revenue, what are my operating expenses, and what non-expenses do I have to pay, such as loan principal payments, or if I have to pay draws. I'm not on this, if I'm a sole proprietor or a partner, I don't take a salary, I've got to take a draw out. That's all cash coming out of the business. And so you need to forecast this going forward to say, when I get back in operations, how is this going to look? How long will it take for me to break even? When will my cash start accumulating as opposed to going out? And if you had to use any loans or pay any expenses at the time that you were closed, you need to add those into this cash flow if you were able to offset them for several months and put into the cash flow that you have when you're opened up to find out, well, how is this going to impact me? So what this does, it kind of gives you control of everything and ahead of time of showing where you're going to be. But I think making the decision based on purely a numbers perspective, if I stay closed, what expenses? If I'm open, what's that going to be? Knowing what other sources you have money to cover yourself, and then doing a forecast when you're back open again to make sure that you're going to be on the right side of it. So I think if you use those 3 tips, it can relieve a lot of stress, because it kind of puts the answers in your hands. And we do not want to make uninformed decisions right now. You have to make informed decisions as best you can, because it's real easy to make a mistake. And the decisions you're making by doing this are going to be proactive decisions rather than reactive decisions. We're reacting to the pandemic, but if you take a moment, some time, and really go through this process for a few days or maybe a week, and sit down and think about it, go through it with your spouse, go through it with your business partner, that sort of thing, then you make an informed decision based on the numbers that you have. So I think if you use those 3 tips, it would help relieve stress and hopefully get people through this period.
All those make total sense. And I know a lot of people they kind of have a mental motivation just to go for it, because initially it makes great sense, but it's not until you dive into the numbers that you actually know if it's a smart decision.
So, and I would say right now is not the time to be intuitive. It's the time to get actual numbers down. Don't do it by gut. And I know a lot of people run their business by gut. When things are going well, you can make a mistake, but money can hide a lot of things. Don't do this, because if you make a mistake on this one, it could cost you.
Yeah, pure and simple. Well, thank you, Larry. Those were fantastic, and we can't wait to have you back on the show to get more information and helpful resources and tips from you. You're just a treasure chest of golden information for the small business owner. So thank you.
Well, I'm here to help whenever I can. Thanks, Bryce, for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. See you soon.